Ooh, there's a fighter jet out there. He just took off. Holy. Hello, just going over a video for all the tips I know for these Amazon warbirds, and even better, the F4U specifically, which is known to be a little bit more unstable than the other ones, but I absolutely love this model. So I'm gonna go hopefully from front to back and get you guys going with what, like I said, everything I know that you can do with these models, and it's a lot more than what most people will show you on YouTube. So in the front, you can see number one, I have two blades, a 3-bladed or 4-bladed. They're pretty good. They're very smooth in terms of vibration, but unless you got money to throw away, I would not be using them because they break like crazy. The 2-bladed props will knock off and the prop saber will actually be used, but a 3-bladed or 4-bladed prop pretty much always breaks if you hit anything. Like there's no saving that. So I recommend flying with 2-bladeds. My 2-bladed is trimmed about 2 millimeters on each side, if you could see. You don't have to do that. You can do that. I did that when I had my landing gear on. I actually ordered new props that are full size, and I plan to fly with those mostly on, but you can trim your propellers a little bit if you wanted to. I have mine flat instead of rounded. I've played with both. So let's see. So you want to fly with the 2-blade propellers, and also I recommend hot gluing your motor mount, because as you can see, mine doesn't really move. That's just like the slack now from crashes and being repaired. But the actual motor itself, if you can see in there, when I move this, it does not move. That is because I removed this cover and I put 2 lines of hot glue in the motor with the hot glue gun really hot, and then placed this over. I did this a couple of times over repairs, and after taking this motor out a few times, I had to, well, I didn't have to, but I wanted to also do a little bit of thin hot glue right here to maybe help it in some crashes. Hot glue stretches in a crash and absorbs it. Crazy glue snaps and breaks the parts. So hot glue is pretty damn good. It's a little bit more heavier though. But I've also hot glued the nose, or the fuselage right here. There's a crack that went almost all the way through that I repaired. So you want to get that glued in, and I had mine, like I said, hot glued. I also threw a drop of crazy glue right here and right here in the motor area, not this latch. That one you have to be very careful with, and it may not be necessary, but it definitely locked in the motor a little bit tighter. Now, as you can see, I have no landing gear on. I tried it on and off. I believe the drag of it is just so much on this little airplane, having drag on the bottom of the airplane, because the wheels only weigh 2.5 grams, what I've removed, and it flies so much better. And with the wheels on, I've actually been able to carry at least 10 grams, maybe 11 or 12, because of the system I use to drop a tiny little mock bomb off of this. So I don't think it's the weight of the landing gear that's holding it back, because it can hold the landing gear and 12 extra grams, but I think it's more so the drag. Because now when I remove these, my rolls and my loops are so much better. I can loop almost straight up in a straight line now, and when I exit the loop, I'm pretty much going in the same path from when I started. And from the factory, that wouldn't happen. I would enter a loop right here and I'd exit the loop somewhere around here, which can literally just cause you to crash into a tree depending on how you're doing your stunts. So the landing gear off is a big one, and as long as you have the 2-bladed propeller as well, and you cut throttle completely once you actually fully stall it for the landing, for the belly flop land, you won't be breaking your propellers. If you have a 3-bladed and you're landing on concrete, you're not going to have a good time with no landing gear. So to have no landing gear setup, you also want this. They all work in harmony together. Once you've done that, you want to take this, be very careful how you move this servo. These little servos on these planes can strip, and I move them very gently and always from the servo arm with the least amount of stress, not from the control surfaces, ever, if you can avoid it. The servo arm, you want to have it in a straight arrow, or you want to have it aligned like this after you moved it by hand, so that you can point a line straight through like there's an arrow right there through the nose. You want to make sure your guide rods are very straight, and if you have to move your guide rod hole position, you should do so by taking the arm off right here. It makes things much more easier because you can get to this easy. So do it that way for this. And I recommend the middle or the furthest hole for the ailerons control. The closest one is too sensitive and is absolutely ridiculous for this model. You do not need that. So you want to have your guide rods perfectly straight, and you can see that the U-bends are nice and straight, even the part that continues after the U-bend is pretty straight. And now you want to squeeze or extend those U parts of the linkages so that your ailerons are as level as they could possibly be. So those are pretty level. And now from here, if you want more throw on your elevator, which who doesn't want more throw on their elevator, what you do is you follow this rod right here down to this servo arm, and this rod arm is going to be installed on the lower control horn hole. If you move this, if you unscrew this and move that rod to the higher hole, you will have more leverage already, just like that. Now once you do that, you want to make sure both your servos are 90 like this, so you can trim it without having the controller on, because the controller does not save trim settings. So you want to have both your servos like this at a 90-degree angle, and you want to trim like that mechanically. So for my level flight plane, it looks like there's a tiny bit down on the elevation, maybe perfectly straight depending on the angle you look at it. Try to line up that slot right there, and you can see this rod is as straight as I could get it to be, but the length, it's just not a very customizable ideal length rod, especially when you're moving the servo arm. Anyways, I had to squeeze it to get it the proper length. Mine looks like this. It's not perfectly straight or aligned, but this is what gets my plane to fly really straight in expert mode. You're gonna see once I flip to expert mode, it can fly straight as if I was still in the gyro mode. And now for my rudder, I have it pretty much set up straight with a tad bit favor for right trim, so I can like that, but it's pushed to the back right there, you see. So like I said, you can trim your plane without even turning on the battery. You have all your servos set to 90. This servo arm is at a 90. When you look at your servo like this, if it had the different arm, that would be a 90 right there. So all your servos at 90, and then you mechanically set everything to be as straight as possible. And then let's see if I can maybe get it kind of with the thrust line. The thrust line is about here for the propeller, roughly. And you can see I can see on my camera there's a straight line going from the elevator to the propeller. Like I can pretty much put the propeller nose through the back. And you can see the wings not perfectly flat. If you think it should be like that, you'd be nosediving. So this is level flight angle. And it's trimmed for this angle. You don't want to trim your plane for this angle or this angle. That's not going to work. You want to trim your plane to fly how it should fly, which is in this direction. So now I'm going to attach some flying footage and maybe not talk, because when I talk and I fly this warbird, I crash. So I'm going to fly this outside now and hopefully show off that it's worth taking some time to do this. But before I do that, before I forget to mention, as you can see, my F4U is a lot more shiny than most F4Us. That's because I use hardwood floor luster and this brush to brush it on to protect the planes. I'm not going to do a tutorial on that right now because that's it's going to be too long of a video, but look into hardwood floor luster for coating airplanes, or mini wax polycuric, some type of coating you can get at Lowe's for your airplanes. You can coat them and make them waterproof, and they become so waterproof that you can even spray them with a spray can and they won't damage the foam. Because if you don't know, if you spray a normal RC airplane with a spray can and you didn't do this before, you're gonna have a bad time. It's gonna eat the foam. So this waterproofs it and can make it shiny. There are matte finishes if you get different versions, but I'm pretty happy with the way my F4U looks. I gave my fuselage 4 coats and my wings 2 to 3 coats, just so you have an idea on the sheen if you want to try to match it. And anyways, let's get to flying now. Okay, just about to power on the plane. I wanted to show you guys this to show you that it actually flies pretty good with the trim settings, that it saves it all and all that, because there is nothing to save when you do everything like this. So here's turning it on for the first time, and then flip to manual, and you can see all our control surfaces are set. So now beginner, I'm going to add 50% throttle and toss it into the wind. Just flying across the wind right now. It's kicking up a little bit. I hope you can see this. Damn, the wind's pretty crazy. But even with this crazy wind, it's flying not too bad. This is just beginner mode. God, this is so windy, I could probably hold it in a hover almost. I'm not going to do so very low though, because I'm afraid of stalling, but let's see if I can get some elevation and do some loops. Oh, crow's coming for me. Let's see. It's too windy, so I'm gonna really have to go with the wind on this and not against it. So let's try a loop. Not too bad. The wind really kicked up, unfortunately. But you can see, I also recommend only flying beginner mode, by the way, not mid mode. But you can see it's pretty stable, considering it's like 15-20 mile per hour gusts for this. I normally do not fly it in this amount of wind at all. You see it fly pretty low. I'm gonna toss it back in the air real quick and maybe get some elevation and throw it in manual. I'm not sure though, it's so damn windy, but want to be able to get some footage of it in manual mode. So ooh, scary. Obviously flick back to beginner mode if you couldn't tell. Ooh, there's a fighter jet out there. He just took off. Holy. That was a fighter jet over there way in the distance. I'm gonna see if I can see that in the camera later on. It's rare to see them out here because they're so damn hard to see for one. But holy. Bro does not want the smoke. Look at this. It's like F-35 behavior. He don't want it. That looked like an older F-16 or something. Okay, I'm gonna come in for a landing. I think my battery is pretty low. Oh, the fighter jet. I hear him. Oh! Holy shit. That thing is loud. Okay, now I'm gonna come in for a landing with a super low battery. Okay, I need to be slower than that. Honestly, with the wind direction, I might as well land from the other way. Ooh. Yep, that was my low battery warning. Got too excited with the jet.
Anyways,